Well, hi friends, DP Ride here. Hey, today's video is going to be a little bit different than the stuff that I normally do. I have had some requests to show people how to clean a 1911 pistol. So after you go to the range and you want to clean your gun, this is how you do it. So as you can see, I've got the overhead rig set up here, so hopefully we'll get some good overhead shots. And what I'll do is I'll take you through disassembly, cleaning, and then reassembly of your 1911 pistol. So without further ado, let's get it started. So of course the first thing we need to do is to make sure that our gun is safe. So we do a chamber check, mag check. So what I do is pull this back to make sure that there's nothing in the chamber. I physically put my finger into the mag well to make sure that there's no magazine in there. And I actually like to lock this back and take a look in the chamber. And I don't know if you can see that there, but there's nothing in the chamber. I also just like to rack it a few times just to make sure that our gun is safe. So we know that our gun is safe. We don't want to trip the trigger. We want to leave our hammer back because the first thing we need to do is to turn this barrel. So I do put the safety on, and then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this barrel bushing. And you can use your fingers, but I actually have a tool that works pretty well. So I just push down on this, and then I just spin it over. And here's where you have to be careful because this spring is under tension. So as soon as you turn this far enough, make sure that you put your finger right here so that it doesn't fly away from you. So you can take this collar, just kind of set this aside. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn the gun over, and then on the slide release here, and you're going to move the slide until this notch right here aligns right here with the slide release. So right there. And then on the other side, you're going to see this little bump right here. And all you need to do then is push, and then this will come out. So then you just take this out. And then from there, you can take your whole slide off. So you've got your spring here, and then you've got this guide that you need to take out, and then this is the actual barrel. So what we do is we take this barrel bushing, spin it the other way so it'll come out, put that aside, and then our barrel will just go right forward and come on out. So now you've got your slide and then all the components here. And what I normally do is I normally put these small pieces into a small jar, and then just add a little bit of hops and kind of let those soak a little bit while I'm doing the other stuff. The other thing I want to do is I do want to take off the firing pin because that spring in the ejector gets pretty dirty. So I am going to put gloves on for that. As you know, I'm kind of finicky. So this part is a little bit tricky. So what we have here is we have this little release pin. So here's the catch for the firing pin. The firing pin is actually right here, and then we have the catch for it, and then the injector is inside. So what I want to do is I just want to push down on this, and this is also against spring tension, so we need to be careful here. So I push this down, and then I just start sliding this little release piece, this plate off right here. And so again, there's under a little bit of spring tension. So when I pull this out, and I'm just going to put this in there as well, then the firing pin will just come right out, and I can just kind of soak that in there as well. And then the last thing to come out, there's a spring, and if you just push down on this, there's the firing pin spring, and then you've got this little spring and pin right there, and then the ejector will just slide on out. So then this is the ejector, and this gets really dirty. And also right inside here, and these two barrels here get extremely dirty, so those need to be cleaned out. Okay, so we're going to put our parts in there, and we're going to let them soak for just a little bit, and now we're going to clean our gun. All right, so the first thing I like to do is I like to take some of these pads, and I just put them in this little slot guy here, pull it through, and then I'll put this on the end of this little rod, and then I like to soak this pretty good, and I'll just kind of run it through to get this nice and wet. Because what I want to do after that is I want to put this barrel cleaner on, and I'll dip that in the hops as well, and then I'll run it through, and I'll usually just kind of twist it all the way through. And I'll do that a couple times because obviously the barrel is rifled, and so the dirt gets inside, the lead buildup kind of gets inside. the rifling part, which are those grooves. So you want to make sure that that's what gets clean. So I just kind of run that through 3 or 4 times, and then I swap it out again for the pad. So we'll just do that. Okay, so once the barrel's pretty clean, you can start running dry patches through. You want to make sure that it's dry in there. You don't want to leave any fluids, because that can cause a problem when firing if you've got any fluid in there. So, all right, so that's pretty good. The last patch is pretty clean. Then after that, you can just take a rag, just dip it in a little bit of hops, just kind of wipe down the outside of the barrel, just kind of good, general, taking care of your stuff. The other pieces like the spring and the guide rod, these can pretty much just be wiped down. They're pretty simple. They don't get that dirty. And then the other tricky part is actually inside the barrel itself. So you've got all these grooves, nooks and crannies, and it gets really dirty in there. So I'll usually take swabs, which are great for this, just kind of run it through. You can see how dirty this gets. And again, you don't need to get it perfectly clean, but you do want to get it as clean as possible. So the other part that gets really dirty is inside these little holes right here. So again, I'll take my Q-tip and run that in there, and you can see that's super dirty. That has a lot of deposit in there. So that we want to make sure is clean, because that's where our ejector goes. All right, so that's pretty clean. Again, just a general wipe down. All right, so these other pieces I just took out of the hops fluid, and I just kind of wipe them down. They should be pretty clean now. Again, they don't get super dirty, but just kind of a general wipe down will be fine. All right, so we're ready to put our firing pin back in the slide. So what we do is we go and put the spring on the firing pin, and we can slide that right in here. Okay, and then we're going to take our ejector, and I do like to lube this up a little bit. So anytime I have metal on metal, I usually like to put just a little bit of lubricant, just to kind of keep things running smoothly, so they don't wear out as easily. And then we need to make sure that these grooves here go right back in here. In fact, I'm going to put my glasses on to make sure that I got that right. Okay, so it's easy to get it aligned to start, but what's hard is to keep it aligned when you're putting this firing pin plate back on. So we also have to put this spring and cap back on here. So we stick that right there. Now we're ready to put the firing pin plate on, and again, just a little dab of oil right there. Okay, so here's where you need 3 hands. But what you got to do is you got to depress the firing pin, and you got to push this spring in so that the firing pin will go down. So you kind of have to hold that with your thumb, push the firing pin in past this slot, and then now you want to put the plate right in that groove there. Hopefully you can see this. This is where it's hard to get. And remember, that firing pin is under spring tension, so just don't let it go. And then once you get it just right, it'll slide on in. All right, so once you slide it right in there, you should just be able to get this to pop right there. And then the firing pin is back out there. That was a little awkward. It took me a while to get that, but I did finally get it. So, all right, so we got that in. All right, so now we're ready to assemble the rest of the rest of the slide. So the first thing we do is we're going to put the barrel in. So again, a little bit of lubricant kind of in the barrel grooves that are down here. Okay, so this goes in from this direction, and it goes all the way till it sits in those grooves. All right, so we're going to put on our barrel bushing, and again, a little bit of lubricant there. Okay, so that goes on this way, and then we slide it over to give us clearance. All right, so then we take our guide rod, and our guide rod goes in here. It's got ears on it, which obviously rest right on the barrel, so we just slide that in here, make sure that's seated, make sure this is up so that the guide rod goes all the way in. Okay, and then we put our spring in, and I usually there's one end that's kind of closely cut and one end that's a little bit more open. I put that open end up towards the out of the barrel to where it's going to fire. So we slide that on. Okay, so we can set that aside for a sec. All right, so now let's clean the frame of the gun. So there's a lot of gunk that builds up on the ramp and on the inside here, you can see it's super dirty. So we're gonna give this a pretty good scrubbing. And nothing fancy here. I'll put glasses on just to protect my eyes. But basically, we just wanna kinda get some cleaner on there. You don't want to be too sloppy so that you've got cleaner going all over the place, but you do want to kind of get these parts clean. All right, so unfortunately the batteries in both my cameras died almost simultaneously, so I think that means that I'm taking a little bit too much time. So, but we're almost done. We got the slide and all its pieces put back together. I got the frame all clean. So the last part is we take everything, we take our frame set and we make sure this link is facing up, and we kind of hold everything in place with our thumb. Then we turn it over, we align the rails, and we just slide that in. And what we're looking for is right through this hole, we're looking for that link right there. I think you can see the link is coming through. And then we're gonna take this slide release right here, put just a dab of oil on it, okay? And we're gonna put it right through there. And that just captures that link. We're not fastening it yet, but that just captures it. So now we can move this notch all the way back to there. And now lift this up. You don't want to just grind this in place. So lift it up until this is almost to there, and then we just push it in place and you'll feel it lock in. And then on the other side, you can see this come through, okay? So now what we do is move the slide forward, and I like to put the safety on because that helps keep it in place. And we need to put this collar on. So again, be careful of the springs. What we're gonna do, we're gonna put the collar on first, and I'm gonna push this down past the barrel bushing, rotate the barrel bushing, and then you'll hear a click. Okay, and that just clicked right in. Okay, so our gun is now back together. I take the safety off. I can run the slide a couple times. Make sure it's all good. Chamber check, mag check, and then I can go ahead and fire. Make sure that everything works. Just run the slide a couple again, and that's pretty much it. Last thing I like to do after I finish cleaning is just run the silicone cloth, which has just got kind of a light oil on it, and it just shines up the gun. It just makes it all look nice, and that's pretty much it. So there you have it. That's how to disassemble, clean, and reassemble your Colt 1911.